The wind didn't just howl, it screamed, tearing across the Colorado plains like a living thing. Hungry and merciless, snow fell in blinding sheets, swallowing the moon and turning the world into a featureless void of white. Beneath the pines, their branches sagging under the weight of ice. Clara Wade staggered forward, one hand pressed against her swollen belly, the other clawing at the air for balance. Each step was a battle, her boots sinking deep into drifts that seemed to pull her down, urging her to surrender. Her breath came in shallow, ragged gasps, each one slicing her lungs like a shard of glass. Her lips were cracked and blue, her fingers numb inside threadbare gloves. Clara's heart pounded with a single, desperate vow. My baby will live. She'd been running for hours, maybe days, it was impossible to tell. Her husband, Shupiturduri, Timornum, was gone, his blood staining the snow outside their burned-out homestead. The men who'd killed him, outlaws with cruel eyes and quick triggers, hadn't bothered to chase her. They'd laughed as she fled, certain the storm would finish what their bullets started. Clara fell to her knees, the snow swallowing her hands as she caught herself, her vision blurred, the world tilting dangerously. She pushed herself up, slower this time, her legs trembling like a newborn foal's. Not yet, she thought, gritting her teeth. Not like this. The darkness closed in, heavy and absolute. Clara's knees buckled again, and this time she couldn't rise. The cold seeped into her bones, whispering promises of rest, of peace. But as her eyes fluttered shut, a shadow moved through the storm. Heavy boots crunched the snow. A rough hand gripped her arm, pulling her from the drift. Clara tried to speak, but her voice was a broken croak. Strong arms lifted her, and the faint scent of wood smoke clung to the air. A low voice murmured something, words she couldn't grasp as the world faded to black. Clara woke to the weight of warmth, a sensation so foreign it startled her. Her body ached, her skin prickling as though thawing from the inside out. She lay beneath a pile of coarse blankets, her belly tight and heavy. The room was dim, lit only by the flicker of a fire casting long shadows across rough-hewn log walls. Her head spun as she tried to sit up, but a sharp voice cut through the haze. Don't move. Clara froze, her heart lurching. The voice wasn't cruel, but it carried an edge that brooked no argument. Her eyes darted to the source, a man sitting by the hearth, his broad shoulders hunched, boots planted wide. His face was half hidden in the firelight, but she could make out a thick beard streaked with gray and eyes like storm clouds. Hard, unyielding, but not unkind. He didn't look at her as he spoke again. You're safe. For now, one worse. Her throat burned as she tried to speak. Where am I? The words rasped like sandpaper. Cabin. Ifernamurn, he said simply. Money one of sunsumun on, mess hitter. Clara's pulse quickened. She clutched the blankets tighter, her mind racing with questions she didn't have the strength to voice. Why had he saved her? What did he want? The man shifted, tossing a log onto the fire. Sparks flared, illuminating his weathered face for a moment before the shadows reclaimed it. You were dying, he said, his tone flat, almost indifferent. I didn't let you. Clara swallowed, her cracked lips stinging. Why? He turned then, his eyes meeting hers for the first time. They weren't warm, but they carried a weight, grief, maybe, or regret. Didn't seem right. Letting you die out there. His voice softened. Just a fraction, not with a child on the way. Clara's hand moved instinctively to her belly, feeling the faint stir of life within. She wanted to ask more, but exhaustion pulled at her, heavy as the storm outside. The man stood, his movements deliberate, and set a steaming mug on the table beside her. Drink this. Susin and slow, winamorna. She hesitated, fear warring with the desperate need for warmth. The mug's heat seeped into her palms as she lifted it, grimacing at the bitter taste. Willow bark, he said, answering her unspoken question. For the fever, Clara sipped, her hands trembling. Who are you? Elliot, he said, no last name offered. He returned to his chair, the firelight dancing across his face. Yao. Clara, Draken and Torenkin, she whispered, her voice barely audible. Their eyes met again, and for a moment, something passed between them. Not trust, not yet, but a shared understanding. They were both survivors, carrying scars the world couldn't see. The storm didn't relent. For 3 days, snow piled against the cabin, burying the world in silence. Inside, Clara and Elliot settled into an uneasy rhythm. He spoke little, his words clipped and practical. Eat, rest, stay warm. But his actions spoke louder. He kept the fire blazing, brought her simple meals, stew, hard bread softened in broth, and checked her fever with a quiet efficiency that betrayed a deeper care. Clara watched him, piecing together the man behind the gruff exterior. Elliot moved through the cabin with the ease of someone who'd lived alone for years, his hands steady as he chopped wood or mended gear. But there was a heaviness to him, a shadow that lingered in his silences. She saw it in the way his eyes lingered on the fire, as if staring into memories he couldn't escape. Her own pain was a constant companion. Her body ached from frostbite and fatigue. But the baby's kicks were stronger now, a reminder of why she'd fought so hard. At night, when the wind howled and sleep wouldn't come, Clara whispered to her child, her voice trembling with hope and fear. "We're going to make it," she promised. "You and me." Elliot never commented on her murmurs, but he was always there, a steady presence by the fire. Once in Mandindasis, Zunikanoasuan, when a nightmare jolted her awake, gasping and clutching her chest, she found him sitting closer than usual, his eyes fixed on her. He didn't speak, but his silence felt like a shield, warding off the dark. By the fifth day, the quiet became unbearable. Clara's strength was returning, and with it, a need to understand the man who'd saved her. "How long have you been out here?" she asked, her voice cutting through the crackle of the fire. Elliot was sharpening a knife, the blade glinting in the firelight. He didn't look up. "Long enough." "Is Serba Sermon here?" she pressed, undeterred. Alone, his hands stilled, just for a moment. "Since the war." Clara hesitated, sensing the weight behind his words. "Which war?" He set the knife down, his eyes meeting hers. "Does it matter?" His voice was low, tinged with something raw. "Grief, maybe, or shame. They all break you the same." Clara nodded, understanding more than she wanted to. She'd seen her own share of brokenness in Tom, in the men he'd ridden with. "I'm not from here. Myron de Foreign," she said, surprising herself with the confession. "Grew up in Kansas. Married young. One year in my too young." Elliot leaned back, listening. She continued, her voice steady despite the ache in her chest. "Tom wasn't a good man. Drank too much. Dreamed too big. Thought outlaws would make him rich. They killed him when he crossed them. Left me to die in the snow." Elliot's jaw tightened, but he didn't interrupt. When she finished, he leaned forward, his eyes softer than before. "You're still here," he said. "That's more than most." Clara's throat burned with unshed tears. "Doesn't feel like enough." "It is," he said, his voice firm. "You walked through a storm. Clara That's not nothing." Weeks passed, and the snow began to retreat, revealing patches of earth and grass. Clara grew stronger, her body knitting itself back together under Elliot's care. The baby moved constantly now, a fierce reminder of life's persistence. Elliot, too, seemed to soften, though his edges remained sharp. He carved a small cradle one night, his hands steady as he sanded the wood smooth. When Clara woke to find it by the fire, she cried silently, overwhelmed by the quiet kindness of it. But peace was fragile. One afternoon, as Clara shook out blankets outside, she noticed Elliot by the barn, his posture rigid. "What's wrong?" she asked, her stomach twisting. He straightened, his face grim. "Riders. Saw them near the ridge. Asked if I'd seen a woman, pregnant, running from trouble." Clara's blood ran cold. "They're looking for me." "Looks like it," Elliot said, his voice hard. "They won't find you." Her fear spilled over, sharp and bitter. "If they come here, they won't." He cut in, his eyes blazing with a ferocity that stole her breath. "Not while I'm standing." Clara's chest tightened. "You don't owe me this, Elliot." He stepped closer, his voice low and steady. "Maybe not, but I'm not letting you die. Not you. Not that baby." Tears stung her eyes, but she held his gaze. For the first time, she saw not just a man hardened by loss, but someone choosing to stand between her and the dark. "Why?" she whispered. Elliot's jaw worked, emotion flickering in his eyes. "Because I couldn't save the ones I loved. This time, I can try." Spring arrived, and with it, the riders. They came at dawn. 4 men with dust-caked coats and cold smiles. Elliot was ready. his rifle steady as he faced them from the porch. Clara crouched inside, her heart pounding, a pistol heavy in her trembling hands. Frener, the leader, a freer servitor, a wiry man with a cruel smirk, called out, "Sonenin, we know she's here. Old man, hand her over." "She's not here," Elliot lied, his voice like iron. "Keep riding." The leader's smile faded, his hand drifting to his gun. "Don't play hero. Hail, it won't end well." Elliot didn't flinch. Last chance. The standoff shattered with a single shot. Elliot fired first, dropping the leader with a bullet to the shoulder. Chaos erupted, but Elliot was precise, his shots finding their marks. When it was over, silence returned. Heavy and absolute, Elliot stepped back into the cabin, his face tight but unharmed. "It's done," he said. Clara dropped the pistol, rushing to him, her hands pressed against his chest, needing to feel his heartbeat. "You're alive," she whispered, tears streaming down her face. He caught her gently, their foreheads touching. "You're safe," he murmured. "It's over." But it wasn't. A sharp pain ripped through Clara's belly, doubling her over. "The baby, Sanemon." She gasped. "It's coming." Elliot moved with a calm that belied the storm in his eyes. He carried Clara to the bed, piling blankets around her and stoking the fire until the room was warm as summer. Pain consumed her, each contraction a wave threatening to pull her under. She screamed, her nails digging into Elliot's wrist as he knelt beside her, his voice a lifeline. "You're strong, Clara. You can do this." Time blurred, the world narrowing to agony in Elliot's steady presence. Clara thought she might break, but his words anchored her. "Push, Clara, but Nadintin. You're almost there." And then a cry, "Hi, bears. This started be alive." Clara sobbed, relief and joy crashing over her as Elliot gently wrapped the newborn in a clean cloth. "It's a girl," he said, his voice breaking as he placed the baby in her arms. Clara stared at her daughter, love flooding her chest. "Lila Inena," she whispered. "Her name is Lila." Elliot smiled, exhaustion lining his face. "She's perfect." Days later, the cabin was quiet, filled with the soft sounds of Lila's breathing and the crackle of the fire. Clara watched Elliot as he rocked the baby, his rough hands gentle, his eyes bright with something new. Hope, maybe, or love. He'd told her about his wife and son, lost to sickness years ago. "I wasn't there," he'd said, his voice raw. "But I'm here now." Clara reached for his hand, her heart full. "You're our family, Elliot. If you'll have us." He looked at her, emotion shining in his eyes. "I'm not going anywhere." They stood together on the porch that evening, Lila in Elliot's arms, Clara leaning against his side. The prairie stretched before them, alive with the hum of insects and the whisper of grass. "Think they'll come back?" Clara asked, her voice soft. Elliot pressed a kiss to Lila's forehead. "Doesn't matter. They won't find what they're looking for." Clara smiled, understanding. They weren't victims anymore. They were a family, forged in winter, bound by love. If this story touched your heart, join us at One Kind Moment for more tales of hope and resilience. Subscribe to our channel and share your thoughts. Would you stay and fight like Clara and Elliot? Or start fresh somewhere new? Your voice makes these stories live. Let's build this community, one kind moment at a time.